Welcome to In the Trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics. And as always, we are in our phenomenal studios. I can't believe what First Star Logistics gives us to help us do our jobs right. We are so appreciative. First Star Logistics is first class. There's no question about that. Boy, the Cincinnati Bengals, they went and played a football game that they always play against the Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City. Instant classic. I mean, it was back and forth. Two really good football teams going after each other. They match up so well from a personnel standpoint. The coaches, it's like watching a chess match unfold. They know each other's tendencies so well, and they come up with little wrinkles here and there. It's just an unbelievable experience watching this football game unfold. Unfortunately, the Bengals came up on the short end of the stick, 26-25. And we're going to try to tell you why and how that happened and what the Bengals need to do to bounce back against the Washington Commanders. I don't know about you, but I thought this game was one of the most heartbreaking games in the history of the Cincinnati Bengals franchise. I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs and the Cincinnati Bengals, when they get together, they do it right. I mean, 26-25 is the final in this football game. I mean, every time they play, it's decided by a field goal. You know, a field goal kickers are huge. Money Mac has not missed a field goal in 6 years. He missed an extra point in this football game, which was a little bit of a problem, but the Kansas City Chiefs scored, and they went for two, and they didn't make it. If Money Mac had made his extra point, they would have kicked an extra point. So it's a factor, but it's not a huge factor, but it is a factor. But you look at this football game statistically, it's like, how'd they lose this football game? They led in every category. How does the team, Lou Anarumo's defense, they hold the Kansas City Chiefs at home to 1 for 8 on third down, 12.5% on third down. They hold a first ballot Hall of Fame tight end. He gets targeted 3 times. He only has 1 catch for 5 yards. I thought one of the factors in the game was the tight end package that the Cincinnati Bengals used. And their tight ends combined for 14 catches, 151 yards. Travis Kelce, the future Hall of Famer, 1 catch for 5 yards. I mean, so many things in this football game. The Bengals were +2 in the turnover ratio. They had 3 takeaways. Chiefs only had 1. Problem is, on the one they had, forced a fumble, picked it up, scored. You score an unscripted, unconventional touchdown, numbers are usually like 85% of the time you're going to win the football game, particularly in a hotly contested, tight football game like this. That can be the thing that just kind of swings it. But man, this football game, the Bengals left 8 points on the field in the red zone. They had to settle for field goal twice in their 4 red zone opportunities. The Chiefs left 4 points on the field in the red zone, so there's a little differential there. But the big thing is, once again, Kansas City was able to rush the football. 32 carries, 149 yards, 4.7 average. Bengals, 22 carries, 74 yards, 3.4. That's 2 straight games where the Bengals have been the short end of the stick in terms of running the football effectively. And now in a 2-game stretch, the Bengals have run it 38 times for 144 yards, 3.8 per. 71 carries, more than or almost double what the Bengals have. 319 yards, more than double the yardage the Bengals have. 4.5 yards a carry, almost a yard per carry better. Going to have to get more competitive at the line of scrimmage, running the football and stopping the run. Teams are going to do it until the Bengals make some adjustments and don't allow people to do it. Both teams went for it on 4th down twice. One of them, the Bengals scored a touchdown. Both teams were 2 for 2 on 4th down. Both coaches are noted to be aggressive in that area, and they lived up to the billing. Zach Taylor and Andy Reid. But all these statistics, Bengals have 320 yards total offense. The Chiefs 286. Bengals ran 2 more snaps than the Kansas City Chiefs did. I mean, you're thinking, okay, they had to win this football game. No, they didn't. When you watch the tape, the Bengals are winning more snaps than they're losing. But man, one thing that crept up in this football game in the opener, they were only penalized twice for 10 yards. Each side of the football had one penalty for 5 yards. 8 for 79 in this football game, and they were big. I mean, they were massive. Here, let's take a look at the fourth quarter. What took place there? The Bengals had 25 yards on one drive that they had to settle for a field goal. 25 yards in penalties, and the Bengals have a 1st and 10 at the Kansas City Chiefs 33-yard line, and Orlando Brown gets called for holding. So now it's 1st and 20 at the Kansas City Chiefs 43-yard line. Then 2nd and 11 at the Kansas City 34-yard line. Ja'Marr Chase has the unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, and he lost his poise. Ja'Marr Chase has a rivalry going. There's no question about it. I mean, he gets after it. He gets after it big time with Trent McDuffie, and those two are very physical, big for their positions and physical. And Trent McDuffie likes to have this technique where he's like punching her at the throat. Happened a couple, 3 times, and then Ja'Marr thought that he had like a hip drop tackle, and referee didn't see it that way, didn't call it, and I think Ja'Marr had built up enough what was going on between he and McDuffie, and it is an intense rivalry, boy. They do get after each other, and he didn't hit him back, which was smart, or anything like that, but he went to the official, and when he wasn't getting the response that he was looking for, probably used some words that regrets using and was flagged. 15-yard penalty. That was a killer. Becomes third and 22. Man, at the Kansas City 45-yard line. Evan McPherson still connects from 53 yards, but man, you're potentially driving for an important touchdown, and it doesn't happen. You end up in reverse a little bit. And then the safety blitz that Spags ran on a 3rd and 6. The Bengals drive like 3 minutes and 27 seconds to go. Connor comes in untouched, free runner. That was just that was a heck of a call by Spags right there. It was pretty remarkable. Later on in this drive in the fourth quarter, the Kansas City Chiefs, as they're driving to kick the game-winning field goal, 4th and 6. After a 21-yard pass to Rice, Morris, big offensive lineman, that caught a touchdown pass. He gets called for legal use of hands. So his hands were good when Andy Reid decided to use him, and he does it a lot with big people. They report eligible in the short yards goal line. He'll throw to these guys if they show they have good enough hands. Then he got penalized for illegal use of hands, which was big. He got his hands up in the face of Trey Hendrickson, who, by the way, had a big-time football game. Trey Hendrickson, that was one of his best. 2 sacks, myriad of pressures. And Andy Reid refuses to give his tackles help. And man, I'll tell you, Trey Hendrickson said, "If you're gonna one-on-one block me, I'm gonna get after it." And he had a productive day, to say the least. So now it's 4th and 16. We know it could have been big. I mean, that could have been the game's over. 4th and 16. Let him off the hook. The very next snap, penalty on Anthony. Defensive pass interference, 29 yards. You know, it's like when I first saw it, I thought the receiver and Anthony both went for the football, and the receiver was going backwards and Anthony was going forward to get the football. And then when I saw another replay, I thought, the receiver was going vertical for the football, and Anthony wasn't, and he contacted him before the arrival of the football. But if both guys are going to make a play on the football, it's like, I don't know. All I know is one thing. That flag didn't come out right away, and it was on the Kansas City Chiefs sideline. And those coaches were yelling and screaming, and that official eventually pulls his flag out and throws it. It's in Kansas City. Sideline's going nuts on the guy, and he's trying to decide, boy, that's a bang-bang play. Hey, what do I do? Boom, throws the flag. Critical. And then, you have a walk-off field goal, basically, to decide that football game, which was a shame. But how about these kickers? 51-yarder walk-off decides it. It's amazing. You've got, Money Mac, like I said, missed his first extra point. And Butker, he's only missed one field goal in 6 games. 7 games for him against the Bengals. He's missed one field goal, made all his extra points. 6 games for Money Mac. He's only missed one extra point. I mean, these two kickers are huge, and they decide things. Money Mac, 4 field goals on the day. That tied his best that he's had in the game. It was well played. How about the third quarter? The Bengals have the ball once. They go on an 11-play, 70-yard touchdown drive. The Chiefs go on a 13-play, 65-yard touchdown drive. Then they have the ball for 4 snaps, only gain 13 yards because an interception curtails that drive. So the Bengals had 1 drive in the third quarter. The Chiefs had 2. But the reason is, 24 snaps in 2 series. It was back and forth in this football game as we knew it would be. It was an instant classic. Every time these two teams get together, they have an instant classic, and this one, no exception. Takeaways, obviously, you think 3 takeaways is good enough to win a lot of football games. There's no doubt about that. I thought the 4th and 3 call by Zach Taylor when Yossi Vash is running a route, it looks like he's going to go across the back line of the goal line, and he realizes the defensive back is going to take the bait if he slams on the brakes and goes the other direction, and he did it very quickly. Joe Burrow noticed it because right away Yossi makes that decision and breaks clean. That was an improvisational route, and he and Joe Burrow on the exact same page. So, that's a little bit like, Kelsey and Patrick Mahomes, and the Bengals pulled that off with those two. It really was a heck of an effort, a heck of a football game. Here's an interesting stat as well. From a big play standpoint, explosive plays. There weren't a whole lot of them in this football game, to be honest with you. Before I get to that, how about the Bengals linebackers? 2 linebackers combined for 28 tackles. Pratt and Wilson have 14 unassisted tackles, 7 each. And Pratt has 16 combined tackles with 9 assists to his 7 unassisted. Wilson has 12, 5 assisted to his 12 unassisted. Those two played their hearts out. And Lou Anarumo, can't say enough about his scheme. 3-man line, 4-man line, 5-man line, 2 linebackers, 3 linebackers, all different numbers at the corner and safety position and lining them up differently. It was typical Lou Anarumo. He had Patrick Mahomes, Buffalo. Patrick Mahomes for the game threw for a little over 150 yards, 151 yards, 18 to 25. He had a 44-yard touchdown pass. You take that away, and you can't because it happened. But, he's 17 for 24 for 107 yards. That's Patrick Mahomes. Unbelievable. They picked him off twice. Joe Burrow, he was 23 of 36, 258 yards, and he had drops. Gesicki dropped one. Yossi dropped one. There were some drops there. He could have had probably closer to 300 yards. He had 258, quarterback rating 103.7. All I can say is forget your questions about Joe Burrow not being back. Joe Burrow is back. Joe Burrow is right where he needs to be. And he's getting it done. He's competing at an extremely high level. And, in terms of big plays, the 44-yard touchdown pass obviously was huge for Kansas City. Other than that, their second longest play was a 16-yard play. They had 7 plays between 10 and 13 yards. So did the Bengals. 7 plays between 10 and 13 yards. They had a 19-yard play, a 37-yard catch by Gesicki. There was more run after catch. The 47-yard throw to Burton was a beautiful ball on the outside shoulder of Burton between the numbers and the boundary. That was a beautiful throw by Burrow. So not a ton of explosives in this football game. The 2 defenses did one heck of a job. This one is an extremely tough football game for the Cincinnati Bengals to swallow, boy. A very, very tough pill. So they fall to 0-2. But in my opinion, I'm still bothered more by the Patriots game. You know, the Kansas City Chiefs, both teams are really good football teams. They both played at a high level, and it was decided in a game like that, any one of half a dozen plays, if they don't happen the way they did, the outcome's different. The Patriots game is one that, I'm still going to look back on that one and say, man, that was one that you had to have, and you just didn't. You didn't finalize. You didn't take advantage. You didn't execute. You didn't make plays that you needed to make. That's what the Kansas City Chiefs do. Is you look at statistically on this, it's like they were okay, but when they have to make a play to win a football game, they make it, or they force the other team to make a mistake that costs that football team the game. The great teams do that, and Kansas City's a great football team. And that Patriots game, the Baltimore Ravens and the Cincinnati Bengals are in the exact same spot right now. They're both 0-2. They both lost close football games to the Kansas City Chiefs. And they both lost football games that they shouldn't have lost. I mean, how about the Raiders come from 10 points behind in the fourth quarter? They score 13 straight points and win that game. The Ravens can't close out a game with a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter. And, of course, what the Bengals did with the Patriots, I mean, different order. I mean, the Bengals had their clunker in opening weekend, and then they go to Kansas City. Baltimore has the Kansas City game there for opening weekend, and they lose a tough one. And then the Raiders, week 2, I mean, they are exactly in the same spot. It's amazing. Who's going to be able to bounce back? Who's going to be able to bounce back the quickest? Pittsburgh Steelers. They've only given up 16 points all year. 10 in the opener, 6 this weekend's game. Mike Tomlin. They play defense, they run the football, and they just say to their quarterback, don't lose the football game. And Justin Fields is playing well enough not to lose the football game. And there they are in first place. Cleveland's 1-1. It's a lot of football left, but sitting at 0-2, as you look down the rest of the schedule, 15 games remaining, you have to win 2 for every one that you lose. In my opinion, you're going to go 10-5 or better. But at worst case scenario, 10-5, you got to win 10 games if you feel like you want a legitimate chance to get a playoff spot. So got to turn it around and got to turn it around quickly. And this week's opponent on Monday Night Football, no pushover. The Washington Commanders. Jaden Daniels is playing as well as any rookie quarterback in the National Football League. I think he might be playing the best. He is running the football. This guy has the speed of a wide receiver or a running back. I mean, his rushing numbers are crazy. Take a look here. Daniels has 132 yards on 26 carries, averaging over 5 yards a pop. He's rushed for 2 touchdowns. They scored 3 rushing touchdowns. He's got 2 of them. This guy is one of those players where if it's not there for him to take advantage of with his arm, he's going to hurt you with his legs. He's completing over 75% of his passes, 7.74 yards per attempt, quarterback rating 97.2. Then you add over 130 yards rushing in 2 games. Man, that's significant. And whenever I think of the Commanders, I think about the defensive line of the Commanders, and it is significant, particularly in the interior. Payne and Allen. Payne is a pain in the side and other places. He's really a good player, and Jonathan Allen is tremendous. The 2 defensive tackles, the interior of the Bengals offensive line is really going to get tested in this football game. But no matter what, you have to find a way to beat Washington in Cincinnati on Monday night and start to get this thing turned around. I thought one of the most encouraging things of all, though, is watching Joe Burrow handle the football game. He took some shots. He took a scary shot on that one run. Linebacker just came downhill with his helmet, destroyed his shoulder. Joe popped up. I mean, Joe said, I haven't been hit, haven't been sacked. Well, you have now, and he has survived it. And I thought that he executed and played a pretty darn good football game. Unfortunately, he had the turnover that they took back for the touchdown. And obviously, he's distraught and upset about that. But, man, he played at an extremely high level, executing from the pocket. I thought the other thing they did that was very wise, they got him out of pocket. They changed the launch point. And I think he took advantage of that as well. So 0-2. Got a little bit of a hole. You know, Rex Ryan was on television this morning talking about 1-9 in 5 years, the last 5 years for the Cincinnati Bengals. The last 6 years, it's 1-11 in the first 2 weeks of the season. Unfortunately, they know they have to dig themselves out of a hole. Fortunately, they've done it, and they know what it's going to take. It has to start now, though. Can't wait any longer. Dave Lapham here, and every day I am grateful for my experience to have played professional football. As a player, I realized self-motivation, leadership, and appreciating your teammates are key. At First Star Logistics, you can use those same attributes to create the life you want for you and your family. Build your future by working hard like I did. You'll see results both on and off the field. Call First Star Logistics today and be part of our winning team.
Opportunity knocking.